Julia Müller, welcome. You are the head of international business development at advarics. Could you introduce yourself and also explain what is advarics?
Yep, absolutely. I'll do that. And thank you for having me. Super exciting to be here, right? So thank you. As you said, name is Julia Müller. I work for a company called advarics. Advarics is a retail technology provider, and I'm looking after the international business at advarics. Advarics was set up in 2010 in Austria and Germany, and for the last 15 years have been developing, supporting their retail technology product, mainly in Western and Central Europe. They've done really, really well. We have close to 900 customers in Europe, mainly in the DACH area, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. 900 customers across 3,500 retail locations in 8 countries of Europe.
Wow.
So with that, very impressive results, world-class product. We decided back in 2023 to go international. So we now have an office in the US. We've been operating in the US for the past 2 years, and back in autumn 2024, so last year, we decided to also go into Northern Europe, the UK, and the Nordics. And I'm the one who is looking after our partnerships and our customers in those international markets.
Amazing. And for those who haven't heard about advarics, could you explain what is it? What is the solution that you offer?
Absolutely. So advarics is a pioneer in cloud-based SaaS technology. They built their product back in 2010 in the cloud. And back in 2010, cloud wasn't the...
No, that cloud computing was good. You couldn't even explain it to people, more or less. Nobody knew.
So that happened back in 2010, and they've been supporting and developing that product for fashion retailers, specifically for the fashion, sportswear, footwear, accessories retail market for the past 15 years. They are today, just worth mentioning, they are still owned and managed by the 2 founders, who between the 2 of them have more than 50 years of fashion retail experience, e-com experience, and experience with ERP products specifically.
Okay, so it's quite interesting that they come from the fashion side and not from the tech side.
Absolutely. Yeah. They have experience with the on-prem system, with I call them the old dusty, old-fashioned systems, and they deliberately wanted to do something that is modern, affordable, etc., right? And fits businesses of any size, whether you are a boutique of 1 or 2 stores, whether you have 50 retail chain stores, or whether you are a large department store. So as long as it's fashion retail, fashion apparel, sportswear, our product can actually accommodate what it is you need to do in terms of retail processes, in terms of merchandising processes on the shop floor, etc. At the core of the product is the ERP and the POS product. So you have your retail inventory management, your retail merchandise management, and you have your point of sale technology covered as well. The setup is modular, so you can actually pick and choose the modules that you need.
So it's a system that keeps in, says, oh, you sell X amount of black cardigans in large.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you should stock up on.
Exactly.
There's demand for more white t-shirts. For the next collection, you should also think of designing a new white t-shirt. Is it? And then also the end retail, managing how to...
Absolutely, shop floor.
Oh, okay.
So absolutely on
So
the
it's
shop floor.
the entire
journey.
Okay.
Exactly, the entire journey for the business owner and then for the customer on the shop floor. Maybe also worth mentioning, the latest iteration of the product is a progressive web app, PWA, meaning as a customer, you get your customized URL, your login details, you log in, off you go. The product is now usable for you. Your inventory management is at your fingertips, and your till system is at your fingertips as well, meaning you don't need any new hardware, you don't need any of the typical on-prem installations, on-prem servers. You have your business with you on your mobile device, on your tablet, wherever you are, whenever you are ready to do those essential retail processes that every business owner needs to do.
And does it work for both brick and mortar and for online retail?
Yeah. So primarily the inventory management is across every channel. right? You can see what is in your stock, what is in your inventory for every channel. The e-com experience needs to be obviously connected to your inventory management, but you have full visibility of what sells online, what sells in brick and mortar, what sells in any of your stores in real time, by the way, right? Not at the end of the day, not within 24 hours, 48 hours. You see that information in real time.
Amazing. And you even get stats like sometimes in traditional fashion retail, it's always like you have to have like the pink fluffy dress, the outrageous whatever design. You need only one of two of those, but those will drag like the customers
into the store.
Is that the same model that you can see? Oh, it has that many views. The orange dress, they ended up buying the white T-shirt, but the orange dress did start the journey.
The business. You wouldn't get visibility down to that level within the tool itself, but you can absolutely integrate with tools that do that for you, and then integrate the data and visibility for that as well.
So you can customize
you can integrate into the rest of your technology stack, which is probably something worth mentioning as well. The product naturally integrates really well with the rest of your IT infrastructure, so you can continue to use your best of breed endpoint solutions. Advarics will integrate really well. So if you need visibility of footfall numbers, what got people into the store, you can connect our technology with those endpoint solutions that provide that insight and detail for you.
Okay. And what about, I'm thinking with social media being such a big part of like the consumer journey right now, like if you see something on Instagram, does it plug and play with that as well?
It would absolutely plug into that as well, right? So you can, the REST API technology that is very much part of our product, the way we set the product up, integrates with any sort of third-party technology that you need in order to get visibility of all of those social media channels as well.
Okay, that sounds amazing. Now the question always comes, I imagine that a big retailer will think this is amazing. We can totally go into this. But what about the small boutique owner, the little designer label that's just getting attached? Is it a big commitment to connect with you?
Okay, so really, really good question, right? So first of all, maybe to point out, the product was made for fashion retailers of any size, right? So the product has those really critical, crucial elements like size, color, style, matrix, very much built into its infrastructure. Maybe to call out as well, as it relates to sports retail, right? You have articles that don't necessarily fit into the size, color, style matrix. A ski boot, for instance, has different dimension compared to a jumper, for instance. A golf club has different dimensions to that. So obviously the product facilitates style, color, size, but then it actually allows you to add additional dimension as you need them for additional product ranges, and then the attributes that come with it, right? So it's really highly configurable towards what it is that you need in your retail, in your specific sort of retail segment. The reason why we talk about SMB so much, first of all, I feel really strongly about SMB, right? I mean, first of all, just because you're small or medium sized doesn't mean you shouldn't work with smart technology. I actually think it is more important that you do. And it's important that that technology is accessible for you, right? Accessible, affordable, user friendly. So important. I also think very often SMBs are the unsung heroes of so many industries, right? They don't get the limelight. They are not talked about very often, but they should still have access to best of breed technology.
And they're often very much like the front runners within trends that are driving new things forward.
Absolutely. And I mean, just look at some of the brands you've had in this office, right?
Amazing.
Fantastic brands, like quality, style, individuality, like fantastic brands, fantastic names. They are smaller. They should still have access to world-class technology. So I think that is really, really important. And like I've pointed out before, just because you're a boutique owner with 1 or 2 stores, or a chain with 50, or a bigger retailer with 500 stores, the technology should work for you at any size, right? I think what makes us so accessible and affordable is, first of all, the setup is modular. You buy the elements of the technology that you need, and you then pay for what it is that you actually
And how do you
use.
access the guidance? Because very often, if you're into design or style, you might not necessarily understand the inner workings of.
Absolutely, but I sort of think that's, and I haven't necessarily mentioned that before, but the 50 plus people working at advarics, they are all retail professionals.
Oh, amazing! So they understand the challenges.
Absolutely, they understand the processes, they understand different setups, they absolutely understand the challenges, right? So you'll be guided through the selling or the buying process, and you will then be consulted on how do we map, how do we recreate your current flows, or is there actually an opportunity to optimize the processes you work with today, right? So that's all very much part and parcel of the initial sales conversation, and then also as the product is set up and configured for you, right? And then you pay on a monthly basis. The other element that's really important to mention, our setups typically take 6 weeks on average, right? Whereas if you implement with a larger ERP provider, it takes months. I've worked on projects that took years. No SMB can actually afford something like that.
Wait for it. No.
Absolutely, you can't wait. You can't afford it financially, right? So if you have a system that's working for you within 4 to 6 weeks, there's very little risk to actually getting started and set up. So I think that's very important as well. And then I sort of think the real advantages with bigger systems, they are big and expensive, and they still don't always have all the features and functionalities that fashion retailers need. And then the smaller, more nimble systems, they are more affordable, but they certainly haven't got the sort of features and functionalities that a fashion retailer needs. We have been built for fashion retail, right?
Yeah.
So any business of any size, fashion retail is
You
sort of
specialize in that segment of the sector.
and we've done that for the last 15 years. We've been continuously developing the product for exactly this market.
Okay, amazing. Why did you decide to partner with CIFF, and why now?
A really good question. So first of all, the why now isn't really, it wasn't an element in the decision at all, right? So when we decided to go international 2 years ago and then going into the Northern European market a year ago, it wasn't so much why now, it was how quickly can we make it happen.
Amazing.
Right. So CIFF is really one of those names that stands out in the Nordics fashion market. Anybody who's anyone knows about CIFF. And I think what made it particularly opportune was the fact that just at the time when we decided to go into the Nordics, as we reached out to CIFF, it coincided with CIFF making the very conscious decision to actually work with technology providers. So that conversation was a really easy one. You were ready to partner up with technology providers like us. We were ready to partner with you. At that point, it was just how quickly can we actually make it happen, right?
Amazing.
So yeah,
Amazing.
I mean, that was really, really cool. And I mean, just to add to that, the Danish fashion market, the Swedish fashion market is a really buoyant, vibrant place.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a really important partnership for us.
Amazing. And what are your expectations for the upcoming season?
For the upcoming season in partnership with CIFF. So I think first of all, it is access to fashion labels, like access to the people you work with today. That's really important for us. And then collaboration.
Yeah.
And we've seen that work out really well already so far. So it's now a matter of, obviously, the run up to the CIFF show in August, like how can we get ready for that? And then how can we make that the most successful show for you and us and for our collaboration as well. So it's the other thing, just to add, sorry, I sort of think retail has been a really tough industry for years, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The technology...
It's not necessarily becoming any easier.
It's not, right? Because if you look at how quickly technology moves at the moment, really, really tough to keep up.
Yeah.
And then coming out of the pandemic, supply chain issues, right? That was a really tough period. I sort of think that's still not entirely overcome.
No.
Staff retention has been a really big challenge. And then customer retention as well. Is anybody still loyal, right? In terms of customer loyalty. The latest is global climate, political climate, and then the whole conversation around tariffs. Will they, won't they, how big are they going to be, right? So retailers have been living and are still living through a really challenging time. I think they've been incredibly tenacious and resilient and creative. And I think it's more important now than ever to actually use systems and technology that works for your business, right? How can you make technology work for you?
Yeah.
So that's really what we're all about, having it approachable, accessible, affordable, and user-friendly, right?
Yeah.
So your staff can actually you as a business owner can do what you need to do, focus on your customer, and the staff on the shop floor can also do what they really need to do, focus on the customer, make sure that the right product is in store at the right time, and have a really valuable interaction with the customer at every touch point of the relationship.
That's amazing. What can brands and buyers expect when they meet you at CIFF? Can they see the whole system, how it works, how easy it is to use or difficult? Or
Absolutely. So what we typically end up doing at trade shows, there is a lot of interaction, there is a lot of dialogue, right, happening with the people who drop in. We want to have some live demos with anybody who drops by the stand and have some conversations around what is it for you as a brand, as a retailer, that is challenging you right now? What are some of the processes that you're working with behind the scenes that are more difficult than you think they should be? And how can we actually help you make your life easier by using our technology, right? How can we help, right? How can we help your business run smoother? How can we make you be more operationally efficient? How can we enable your team on the shop floor to actually work more efficiently, work more, have more time for the customer, and have everything they need at their fingertips at any given point, right? All the data points, all the merchandise, and like smooth running processes as well.
Yeah, because I think that is very often like people are a little bit tech scared. Like they think, oh, this sounds amazing, but also very complicated. And what I want to do is basically stay on top of trends, getting to know my clients, all this.
Correct.
So is it easy to access once you've plugged in the system?
Absolutely. So I'll give you one of our success stories, and you've mentioned something really, really important here, right? There is still a little bit of awareness of technology, right? How difficult
I'm one of them.
and I get it, right? Like there are certain things you want to do, and there is other things you want to do less of, right? As a retailer or a brand owner. So there is still this almost natural obstacles to technology. So just as an example, one of our success stories was a retailer with close to 200 stores across Germany and Austria, 150 years of history in retail, right? Some very set individual processes around how their goods flow was working, how some of their logistics processes were working. So they had some very embedded, hard-coded ways of doing things. We were actually able to roll out our system in 110 days, from contract signature to everything going live, meaning it took us 4.5 days to switch over more than 200 tills from an old system onto the new system. There was absolutely no disruption in their retail processes. There were no queues at the tills. It was a completely seamless switch over from the old system to the new system. And we were able to map their current processes, recreate them, and sort of have nobody having to learn
a new set of skills.
Exactly, right? I mean, the till is really intuitive. The till interface is really intuitive. It takes a couple of hours to actually learn that, right? And on the inventory management side, the processes are set up and configured for you as the system is getting set up, right? So you're very much part of that whole process of implementation, and we are recreating the process flows that you are using today. So really low obstacle to entry, both from a sort of setup perspective, like I said, 4 to 6 weeks, and then also from a user experience perspective, right? Because you're very much part of that project. We either map the processes as you're using them today, or we help you to optimize those processes at the same time as the system is getting switched over. So I know it is daunting.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the way to do it. Yeah,
exactly. But you are supported by a team of people who know fashion retail right? They know some of the challenges you're facing. They know how daunting this can also be, and they're really here to help you, whether that's from pre-sales, sales, or on the implementation side.
What are some of the biggest challenges and also opportunities that you see in the fashion environment right now?
Really, really good question. And I've mentioned some of them already, right? I sort of think, first of all, staffing is one of the things that remains a challenge. And I mean, complement to retail staff.
Finding the right staff or just finding staff in general?
Well, it's actually finding and retaining staff, right? And sort of staff experience as they are onboarded, as they are being trained, and then as they are being retained, and as they are progressing right through the business. And I sort of think that's why easy to use technology is such an important element in all of this. And when I think of the old monolithic inventory management and retail ERP systems, very often your staff needs to work around the technology rather than the technology actually working for your staff, right? So I think staff experience super important, which is why it's also so important that the technology is user-friendly. The next one I think is still customer experience, customer loyalty, right? I mean, expectations have increased exponentially from shoppers, right? When they engage with the brand, when they engage with a retailer, right? So they want to have the product ready for them to buy when they are ready to buy. So that's a big challenge, right? And there is no loyalty. So if they can find the product anywhere else, they will buy there rather than with you. So again, visibility of your data, visibility of your stock levels, visibility in real time, having those data points at your fingertips, knowing where the product is, which store you can get it from, right? Can you actually reallocate certain inventory elements? All super important. And with our product, you have all of that information on your handheld device at any given point in time, right? And then the last one is still technology, right? That interaction between human and technology, both from a staffing perspective, but then also from a customer perspective, exactly, right? How do you digitally enhance the customer experience? I think that is one of the big topics as well. And then obviously there is AI, right? And I mean, I deliberately haven't mentioned it before because it's just become such a redundant term that's being used so much so. And I've heard that recently in one of the Shop Talk Europe talks. AI is now such a redundantly used term that it no longer actually necessarily gives you an advantage when it comes to your sales or marketing material.
No.
You actually have to go back to what creates value for your customer, irregardless of what the technology is that you use behind the scenes, right? So we're going back to how can you enhance value? How can you delight at any given point in the user experience? And I think user experience, I mean both, right? The people using the technology, but then also the people buying your product on the shop floor or online, for instance. So yeah, some big challenges still, that we need to solve for.
Yeah, and we still don't want to be met by an artificial intelligence when we need guidance and help.
Talk to a human.
We want a human, and then we want the back end to be seamless.
Absolutely, without any problem, seamless experience, right? Totally.
Looking ahead, what's next for the advarics in terms of innovation or expansion, or both?
Yeah, that is a big question. And I thought about that quite a lot as I was preparing for today. So I think there is a couple of elements still. I still think the payments piece is ready for disruption. I think a little bit like with the ERP element, payments has become fairly old, stale, and expensive, right? So I still think as retailers look towards payment providers and payment options, there is room for a lot of disruption. It's become very expensive, and there
just to have a certain credit card.
Absolutely, have your payment terminal, have your payment provider in store, right? So a little less from a customer experience perspective, but like in terms of for a retailer, for a brand, payment providers, I still think there is room to have that space disrupted a little bit more, right? So that is
Interesting, yeah.
I think so as well. It's not necessarily sexy.
No, but it's still like
really
a
valid
very
point, right?
important point.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then you've already mentioned it from a customer experience perspective. It's that seamless customer journey wherever they engage with you, right? Whether they engage with you online, whether they engage with you in store, they want to have one experience from the brand or from the retailer, right? I sort of think that's really important. And there is still a lot of room for that to be improved, right? In general, some people do it exceptionally well already, but I'd say the broad spectrum of retailers still have some room to improve there, right? But again, a lot of that comes back to, have you got the data at your fingertips? Can you actually see what your customers are doing online? Can you see how they're behaving in store? Can you learn any lessons from the data you're given? And how can you then optimize the store experience, the online experience, etc., right? So real-time data, very, very important.
Yeah, because you keep hearing people saying, I just bought a black t-shirt. I don't need the algorithm to serve me 5 new black t-shirts.
Exactly.
Maybe it should serve me something to go with the black t-shirt or pink t-shirt, you know. So that's quite interesting. And that still seems quite stale. I mean, you're still surprised. Actually,
there is a lot of room for improvement still, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think the whole digital human interaction, right? You want the digital side to be seamless, but then you want a human involved, right? That actually delivers that experience, put some additional thought into that, so you get curated offerings around what you're likely to buy.
Yeah.
So, and I think there still is room to improve and optimize in that space as well.
Amazing. Finally, if you had to describe your CIFF experience in just 3 words, what would they be? And maybe not the experience yet, but maybe also just the expectations.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and possibly the hardest question out of all of them. I thought about it really for a long time, and not because it's just been fantastic, right? But that's not the word I want to use. I want to use creative.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of interaction and a lot of good suggestions from the CIFF team. Brings me on to the next term, collaborative, right? It's really felt like a team effort. And then the last word that I thought of last night was consultative, but I don't think that necessarily gives it the credit you deserve. It's been absolutely fantastic is probably the last term I would use. So we've been absolutely delighted by the interaction and the collaboration so far. We are now super excited to see what is next, and then I'm really looking forward to a very successful show in August.
So are we, and I hope that a lot of people and brands will come by your stand and get to know advarics.
So do I.
Thank you so much,
Dina.